My mother's voice cut through the room like a knife. Lucia, we've decided to sell your country house. Your sister needs a nice apartment in the city, and you don't even use that place. My father nodded in agreement, not even meeting. My eyes, like my opinion, didn't matter. My own parents, smiling as if this was some generous family decision, were basically stealing from me. And the worst part? My sister Emily sat there smirking, tapping her nails on the table, like she'd already moved in. If you've ever had family think they can take advantage of you just because you stay quiet, share this, because they're about to learn the hard way that silence doesn't mean weakness. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. I swallowed hard, hiding the storm boiling inside me. You've already decided? I asked, my voice steady, but my heart racing. My father leaned back. It's for the good of the family. You've always been different. You don't need a big property like that. That word, different, was his way of calling me useless without saying it. Emily snorted under her breath. Yeah, it's just sitting there. Might as well put it to good use. They didn't know that while they thought I was living a quiet, modest life, I had been working behind the scenes. That house wasn't just some old property to me, it was my investment, my safe place, and, if I played my cards right, the key to flipping the balance of power in this family. So I smiled. All right, I said, pretending to agree. But in my mind, I was already making calls to people who didn't just buy houses, they competed for them. They had no idea I was about to turn their little plan into a game they couldn't win, and just when they thought I'd roll over, I was about to make a move that would shock every single person in that room. 2 days later, I drove out to the country house alone. The air was crisp, and the wide field stretched out like freedom itself. I stood on the porch, running my hand over the wooden rail, remembering every hour I'd spent fixing this place up, the repairs I'd done quietly, the upgrades no one knew about. My parents thought it was just an old family property. They had no clue it had tripled in value since I'd renovated it. By noon, I was sitting across from a real estate agent in town. Lucia, with the upgrades you've made, I can get you an offer before the week's over, she said, flipping through photos of the kitchen I'd remodeled and the guest house I'd built. I nodded, keeping my excitement hidden. This wasn't just about selling, it was about selling before they could touch it. That evening, at dinner, I played my role perfectly. My father droned on about how Emily would finally have a proper place in the city, and how this would bring the family closer together. I forced a smile, stabbing at my food. Emily leaned over and whispered, "Don't worry, I'll invite you over once in a while." My jaw clenched, but I just said, "Sure." 3 days later, my phone buzzed. The house had sold. The buyer paid in full, no financing needed. I had the check in my hands before my parents even realized what was happening. The next Sunday, they called a family meeting at our old dining table. My father looked smug, papers in front of him. "All right, Lucia, we're ready to sign the sale agreement for the country house. The realtor just needs I slid an envelope across the table. "Oh, you mean this house?" I said calmly. "Sorry, it's already sold." Emily blinked. "What do you mean sold?" My mother's smile faded, and my father's face went pale. They had no idea that what I was about to say next would hit them harder than losing the house itself. My father's hand froze on the papers. "What are you talking about, Lucia?" he demanded, his voice sharper now. My mother leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Emily scoffed, "You can't just sell it without telling us." I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. Before speaking, "Actually, I can. The deed's in my name. Always has been." I could see the shock ripple across their faces. They'd assumed it still belonged to the family, that I was just holding it. "You went behind our backs." My mother hissed, as if I'd betrayed them, completely ignoring that they'd planned to sell it without even asking me. My father slammed his hand on the table. "That property was for all of us." "Really?" I tilted my head. "Because the last time I checked, you were using it for Emily's future. Not mine." Emily crossed her arms, trying to look unbothered, but I saw the panic flicker in her eyes. She'd been dreaming of that city apartment, and now it was slipping away. "What did you even do with the money?" Emily demanded, her voice rising. I smiled slowly. "Let's just say, it's in a place where it will grow. And none of you will see a cent of it." My father's face darkened, but before he could speak, I pulled out my phone. "Actually, here, Take a look at the listing for your dream apartment, Emily. I turned the screen toward her. Sold. To someone else. Guess you'll have to find another way to put my house to good use. The room went dead silent. And then my father's jaw tightened in a way I'd only seen once before. Right before he exploded, what he said next made me realize. This wasn't just about the house. It was about a secret they'd been hiding from me for years. His voice dropped, low and tense. That house was never meant to be yours, Lucia. You only got it because your grandfather changed his will at the last minute. We were supposed to get it. I stared at him. Supposed to? Or you just thought you were entitled to it? My father's jaw worked as he avoided my gaze. My mother finally spoke up, her tone sharp. Your grandfather didn't trust us with it after certain financial issues. He made a mistake. You're fixing it now by giving the money back. I laughed, short, bitter, and cold. So that's what this is about. You didn't care about Emily's apartment. You just wanted cash to cover whatever mess you've gotten yourselves into. Emily's eyes darted between them, confusion turning to suspicion. Wait, what financial issues? My father's eyes flashed, and my mother shot him a warning. Look, but I was already leaning forward. You might as well tell her. The debt collectors will be knocking soon enough. Emily's jaw dropped. You're in debt? My mother tried to wave it off, but the tension in the room was thick. It's complicated, she muttered. I shook my head, standing. Not my problem. I worked for years to restore that house. I turned it into something valuable while you all ignored it. And now? I'm using the money for my future, not to clean up yours. My father's voice turned icy. You're making a big mistake, Lucia. Family is supposed to take care of each other. I met his stare. Family doesn't steal from each other, either. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door, but as I reached for the handle, my phone buzzed with a notification, one that made my stomach drop. It was from my bank. And it showed someone had just tried to withdraw every single dollar from my account. I froze at the door, my hand tightening around the phone. The number on the screen didn't lie. Someone had tried to drain my account completely, but the transaction was flagged and held for verification. My pulse hammered in my ears. There were only 3 people who even knew where I banked, and all of them were sitting at that table. Slowly, I turned around. My parents were watching me carefully, but Emily's expression gave her away. Her lips curled into a faint smirk, the same smug look she'd had when they first told me about selling the house. You didn't, I said quietly, locking eyes with her. Emily leaned back in her chair, her voice dripping with fake innocence. I have no idea what you're talking about. But her fingers fidgeted with her phone under the table, and that was all the confirmation I needed. I walked back to the table, my heels clicking against the floor, and set my phone down between us. The thing about banks, I said evenly, is they keep records. And the thing about me is, I'm not as powerless as you think. My mother scoffed. What are you going to do, Lucia? Call the police on your own sister? Yes, I said without hesitation. The single word cut through the air like glass shattering. Because last I checked, theft, especially this amount, is a crime. My father slammed his hand down again. You wouldn't dare, I cut him off. I already have. I tapped the phone, and on speaker, the voice of my bank's fraud investigator filled the room. Ms. Bennett, we've confirmed the attempted withdrawal originated from a device linked to your sister's name. We'll be proceeding with legal measures unless you choose to drop the complaint. Emily's face went pale. You set me up, she whispered. No, I said, leaning forward so my voice was cold and unshakable. I protected myself. I knew from the moment you all planned to take my house that you'd try to take more. So I put a security flag on my account weeks ago. This was your choice, Emily. My mother started pleading, her voice suddenly soft. Desperate. Lucia, please. We can work this out privately. I shook my head. No. You wanted to humiliate me, take from me, treat me like I was worth less than nothing. But here's the difference, I built my life without you. And now? I'm free from all of you. I picked up my bag again, my heart pounding but my steps steady as I walked out. Behind me, I could hear Emily shouting, my mother crying, my father cursing under his breath. But it didn't matter, because as I stepped outside into the sunlight, the weight of years of being underestimated fell away. I had my money. I had my freedom. And I had the satisfaction of knowing they'd never see a cent of what they tried to steal. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the quiet, overlooked daughter. I was the one holding the power, and they all knew it.